Happy Thursday. You're here with me again this morning to talk about our reading lesson today. So yesterday we read a book called Have You Filled a Bucket Today? And we talked about what it means to fill a bucket and what it means to take away from a bucket. So we have a bucket filler and a bucket dipper. And yesterday you helped me fill out our chart about what it means to be a bucket filler and are some things that we might do that would be a bucket dipper. So some of them were for a bucket filler being a good listener, being a good friend, following directions, working together. Bucket dipper, some of them were calling someone a mean name or mean, teasing, bullying, or hurting others would be a bucket dipper. So we talked about how important it is to be a bucket dipper in here and how we're going to treat each other with kindness and caring, and we're going to support each other because we're a classroom family, and that's what we need to do to be able to reach our goals this year, is to treat each other with kindness and be bucket fillers. Well, today we're going to read or listen to a book titled Chrysanthemum. And you've probably maybe read this book before. And so Chrysanthemum is about to start school. And we're going to talk about how she does at school and some things that she has to face when she starts school. And we're going to talk about maybe some of the characters in here are being bucket dippers, okay? So let's read about Chrysanthemum, and we're going to think about what are they doing to Chrysanthemum? If they're bucket dipping, what might they be able to do to fill her bucket and not take from it? All right, so we're going to read the book Chrysanthemum. The day she was born was the happiest day in her parents' lives. She's perfect, said her mother. Absolutely, said her father. And she was absolutely perfect. Her name must be everything she is, said her mother. Her name must be absolutely perfect, said her father. And it was Chrysanthemum. Her parents named her Chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum grew and grew and grew, and when she was old enough to appreciate it, Chrysanthemum loved her name. She loved the way it sounded when her mother woke her up. She loved the way it sounded when her father called her for dinner. And she loved the way it sounded when she whispered it to herself in the bathroom mirror. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum loved the way her name looked when it was written with ink on an envelope. She loved the way it looked when it was written with icing on her birthday cake. And she loved the way it looked when she wrote it herself with her fat orange crayon. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum thought her name was absolutely perfect, and then she started school. On the first day, Chrysanthemum wore her sunniest dress and her brightest smile, and she ran all the way. Hooray, said Chrysanthemum, school! But when Mrs. Cudd took roll call, everyone giggled upon hearing Chrysanthemum's name. And if you notice, they're all giggling. And here's Chrysanthemum in the corner, and she has a frown. I wonder how they're treating her right now. I can tell by Chrysanthemum's face that they're dipping into her bucket, because by them laughing at her name, they're teasing her a little bit. It's so long, said Joe. It scarcely fits your name tag, said Rita, pointing. I'm named after my grandmother, said Victoria. You're named after a flower. Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. The rest of the day was not much better. During nap time, Victoria raised her hand and informed Miss Chudd that Chrysanthemum's name was spelled with 13 letters. That's exactly half as many letters as there are in the entire alphabet, Victoria exclaimed. Thank you for sharing that with us, Victoria, said Mrs. Chudd. Now put your head down. If I had a name like yours, I'd change it, Victoria said, as the students lined up to go home. I wish I could, thought Chrysanthemum miserably. Welcome home, said her mother. Welcome home, said her father. School is no place for me, said Chrysanthemum. My name is too long. It scarcely fits on my name tag, and I'm named after a flower. Oh, said her mother. Your name is beautiful and precious and priceless and fantastic and smart, said her father. It's everything you are, and her mother said. Absolutely perfect. Chrysanthemum felt much better after her favorite dinner, macaroni and cheese with ketchup, and an evening filled with hugs and kisses. That night, Chrysanthemum dreamed that her name was Jane. It was an extremely pleasant dream. The next morning, Chrysanthemum wore her most comfortable jumper. She walked to school as slowly as she could. She dragged her feet in the dirt. Chrysanthemum, 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 she wrote. She even looks like a flower, said Victoria as Chrysanthemum entered the playground. Let's pick her, said Rita, pointing. Let's smell her, said Joe. Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. Well, we know that those kiddos are not being very nice to Chrysanthemum. We can tell that she's feeling really bad about her name. She said, I feel wilted and dreadful. And so her students in her class are being bucket dippers right now. They're really taking away from Chrysanthemum. The rest of the day was not much better. During nap time, Victoria raised her hand and said, a chrysanthemum is a flower. It lives in a garden with worms and other dead, dry things. Thank you for sharing that with us, Victoria, said Mrs. Chudd. Now put your head down. I just cannot believe your name, Victoria said as the students lined up to go home. Neither can I, thought Chrysanthemum miserably. Welcome home, said her mother. Welcome home, said her father. School is no place for me, said Chrysanthemum. They said I even looked like a flower. They pretended to pick me and smell me. Oh, now, said her mother. They're just jealous and envious and not happy about their own name, said her father. Who wouldn't be jealous of my name like yours? Who wouldn't be jealous of a name like yours, said her mother. After all, it's absolutely perfect, said her father. Chrysanthemum felt a little bit better after her favorite dessert, chocolate cake with buttercream frosting, and another evening filled with hugs and kisses. That night, Chrysanthemum dreamed that she really was a chrysanthemum. She sprouted leaves and petals. Victoria picked her and plucked the leaves and petals one by one until there was nothing left but a just scrawny stem. It was the worst nightmare of Chrysanthemum's life. Chrysanthemum wore her outfit with 7 pockets in the next morning. She loaded the pockets with her most prized possessions and her good luck charms. Chrysanthemum took the longest route possible to school. She stopped and started at each and every flower. Chrysanthemum, 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 the flowers seemed to say. That morning, the students were introduced to Mrs. Twinkle, the music teacher. Her voice was like something out of a dream, as was everything else about her. The students were speechless. They thought Mrs. Twinkle was an absolute wonder. They went out of their way to make a nice impression. Mrs. Twinkle led the students in scales. Then she assigned roles to the class musical. Victoria was chosen as the dainty fairy queen. Rita was chosen as a butterfly princess. Joe was chosen as the almost all-important pixie messenger. And Chrysanthemum was chosen as a daisy. I know, I wonder how she's feeling about that. Now she's picked as a daisy, and she's already worried about her name, Chrysanthemum, which is a flower. Chrysanthemum's a daisy, Chrysanthemum's a daisy. Joe, Rita, and Victoria chanted, thinking it was wildly funny. Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. What's so funny? Asked Mrs. Twinkle. Chrysanthemum, was the answer. Her name is so long, said Joe. It scarcely fits on her name tag, said Rita, pointing. I'm named after my grandmother, said Victoria. She's named after a flower. My name is long, said Mrs. Twinkle. It is, said Joe. My name would scarcely fit on a name tag, said Mrs. Twinkle. It would, said Rita, pointing. And, said Mrs. Twinkle, I'm named after a flower, too. You are? Said Victoria. Yes, said Mrs. Twinkle. My name is Delphinium. Delphinium Twinkle. If my baby is a girl, I'm considering Chrysanthemum as a name. I think it's absolutely perfect. Chrysanthemum could scarcely believe her ears. She blushed, she blinked, she beamed, she bloomed. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Joe, Rita, and Victoria looked at Chrysanthemum longingly. Call me Marigold, said Joe. I'm Carnation, said Rita, pointing. My name is Lily of the Valley, said Victoria. Chrysanthemum did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She knew it. The end. So we see that in this book, most of the kids in Chrysanthemum's class were being bucket dippers the entire time. The end, though, she met Miss Twinkle, who was a bucket filler for Chrysanthemum. She gave her the confidence for her name. So she got that confidence back by the end of the book. Now she thinks her name is absolutely perfect. So we're going to make sure we're like Miss Twinkle, and we build each other up this year. In your Google Classroom for today's assignment, you have an assignment you can do in your journal or on this sheet of paper. And what you're going to do is you're going to draw one way to not be a good friend. So you're going to draw one way to not be a good friend. That would be a bucket dipper. And then you're going to draw one way to be a good friend, okay? And that's going to be a bucket filler, and that's going to go right here. And then I want you to try on the back of your paper or in your journal, I want you to write a sentence about how you're going to be a bucket filler this year to your classmates, okay? I want you to write a sentence or two about how you're going to be a bucket filler this year to your classmates, all right? All right, see you tomorrow. Bye.